right, back for chapter 10. And then I don't know. Oh, that might be it. So we'll start with chapter 10. It was 3 days before Sean's party. Little Jimmy was sick in bed with chicken pox. Itchy spots were in his nose and in his hair. They were nearly everywhere. Dee Dee Winters had them too, and Jason Birchall missed school. Abby was worried. Who's next? 2 days before the party, Eric and Duncombe broke out with the chicken pox. After supper, Sean did too. Rats, Abby said to her mother. Now we can't have the party. But you can still bake a cake, her mother said. Sean would like that. The next day, Abby hurried to the kitchen. She got out mixing bowls, eggs, and flour, baking powder, sugar, chocolate squares, and canned frosting. She posted the pattern of South Korea on the refrigerator with a clown magnet. Next, she tiptoed to the boys' room. They were sound asleep. Good. Back in the kitchen, she followed her mother's recipe. When she measured the flour and the sugar, some of it flew onto the floor. When she mixed the batter, it spilled too. What a mess. At last, she slid the cake pans into the oven and waited. When the timer rang, Abby used the hot pads. The oven was very hot, so were the cake pans. She placed them on the counter to cool. Then Abby heard footsteps. She turned around. There was Jimmy making flour footprints on the floor. Snow White was behind him, licking up spilled sugar. Abby stared at her little brother. What are you doing up? Thirsty, Jimmy moaned. Abby poured a glass of water. Here, she said, holding the glass out to him. Now go back to bed. Not tired, he said, scratching his spots. Don't scratch, Abby said. It'll make marks. He walked to the refrigerator, tracking flour everywhere. Reaching for the map of South Korea, Jimmy slipped and fell. Ouch, he cried. Abby helped him back to bed. Sean was still asleep. Phew, close call. Gotta hurry, thought Abby, tiptoeing back to the kitchen. She turned the first cake pan upside down. It was so hot it burned her fingers. The cake came out in a crumbly mess on the plate. Oh no, what's wrong, she thought. Then she remembered Stacy, the fixer-upper. Abby called her best friend on the phone. She came right over. I want it to look like South Korea, Abby said, pointing to the map. Sean's birthday is tomorrow. Stacy grabbed the drawing off the fridge. So this is the secret you were keeping from me. Please help me, Stacy, Abby whispered. I'll never keep secrets from you again, I promise. Stacy smiled. It's a deal. Now, first of all, the pans have to cool before you dump out the cake, she explained. But I think I can fix your mess. Abby watched as Stacy worked. Bit by bit, she pieced the cake together with canned frosting, but the cake had ugly bumps and ridges in it. It looked more like the Grand Canyon than South Korea. Soon the second cake pan was cool enough. Stacy turned it over, but the cake was stuck. Stacy groaned. Why didn't you butter and flour the pan first? I thought I did. Stacy tried one more time to get the cake out of the pan, but it fell out in pieces. Abby looked at the cake in horror. Oh no, she cried. Oh, forget it. Just get me a streamer, Stacy said. What for? To hold the cake together, Stacy said. Abby had never heard of such a thing. Did Stacy really know what she was doing? Abby ran to her room to get the red streamers. There was no time to waste. Chapter 11. Abby rushed back to the kitchen with red streamers and tape. Stacy wrapped the streamer around the cake. She stuck tape on the end. Then she stepped back to have a look. Abby felt like a jitterbox. She didn't know what to think of Stacy's repair job. Shouldn't we frost it all over? Abby asked. When it cools some more. Stacy slid the 2-layer cake in the freezer. When she closed the door, she leaned against it. Remember that pot roast you bought with your own money? Abby felt jittery. Sure. Why? Well, my mother noticed it was a different brand, so I told her what we did. Stacy paused. I told her everything. I'm glad you did, Abby said. I knew we were wrong. Stacy grinned and washed her hands. She wants you to come for supper tonight. She does? Stacy laughed. We're having your pot roast. Abby's jitters were gone. I'll tell your mother I'm sorry in person, she said. Then she set the timer. In 15 minutes, she would check the cake. When Stacy left, Abby sat at the kitchen table. She thought about Sean's chicken pox. She thought about the birthday cake. What an icky mess it was, even with the red streamer holding it together. The white frosting could never hide the ugly mess. It still looked like the Grand Canyon instead of South Korea. Then Abby had an idea. She searched in the pantry and found what she needed, a bag of red cherry chips. Abby's cake still had a chance. It would be first rate after all. Her cake could have the chicken pox. The red cherry chips would hide the lumpy, bumpy cake. It was perfect. Abby danced a jig around the kitchen. The buzzer rang. Abby jigged to the freezer and took out the cake. Ready. The next day was Sean's birthday. Abby got up early and decorated the kitchen with red, white, and blue balloons. Even though the party was off, she wanted to surprise Sean. After lunch, the doorbell rang. When Abby opened the door, there stood the cul-de-sac kids, chicken pox and all. Surprise, they shouted. Surprise on you, Abby Hunter. Letting her friends inside, Abby giggled. It was definitely a good surprise. The kids cheered when they saw the kitchen. Abby gave everyone a red marker. Let's put red spots everywhere. We'll give everything the chicken pox, she said. And that's what they did. The balloons and the napkins were spotted. Even the streamers had pox dots. Abby put red sticker dots on the dog. Now Snow White had chicken pox too. She barked and ran around in circles. Abby's mother invited everyone to sit down. Then Sean peeked around the corner in his pajamas. He grinned at his spotty friends. Surprise! They shouted. Happy birthday! Abby pulled out a chair for her brother. It was at the head of the table. Then she carried in the lumpy, bumpy cake with white frosting and red cherry chicken pox spots. Mother lit the birthday candles. They were white with red polka dots. Happy, happy birthday, son, she said. Make a wish, Abby said. Sean closed his eyes. There were spots on his eyelids. Then Sean blew out 10 candles on the first try. Everyone cheered. Abby wanted to dance. It was a super itchy-gitchy Saturday, so the party was short, but it didn't matter. The cul-de-sac kids said it was the best pox party ever. The end. That's the end. And I guess I can show you that last picture with them all with the chicken pox. Pretty cute, right? So I hope you enjoyed that. I'm going to save the next book for when school starts next week again. So I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you're still enjoying your break, and we'll see you in the next video next week sometime, unless I do like a spring break weird one, but I don't know. We'll see. All right. Love you guys. See you soon.